Welcome, beloved Awakened One. I'm Monica Bermudez, and this is the podcast of the Ascended Earth, the transfiguration of the new you, the new human. We are an ever-evolving human, learning, growing, expanding, and upgrading. What you are and always will be is a divine, cosmic galactic source from source, more than you can imagine. But not all of us are living to our fullest potential. It is time to embrace what you are and unlock your magical keys and spiritual gifts. This podcast is a transmission of energy codes meant to unlock other dormant DNAs to remember, reconnect, revive, and renew you to the new human, the avatar that you are. This is the transfiguration of the new you. Hello there, my beloved Awakened One. This is Monica Bermudez here for another episode of my podcast. I want to talk about the Sacred Heart as a gateway to your purpose. And I will start by talking about what that is and how I came about by that name and what it means, and why it is, a gateway to the purpose, our purpose. And my business, when I first launched it about 2 years ago, it was called Sacred Heart Awakenings. And I had initially started, with this whole thing about focus on the Sacred Heart in relationships. But that quickly shifted into a different role and mission that is more related to the ascension. And the Sacred Heart itself is very much the key to our ascension. Now, let me go back to how I came about that name. In one of the channelings, even before I even launched my business officially, in one of the channelings with my mentor, what the exact phrase that came up was the return of the Sacred Heart. And so because I'm such a movie person, immediately what I thought of was the Return of the Jedi. Well, it kind of was linked into that because there is some of that force of energy that the Sacred Heart brings within us. And so I was getting this message about my unique codes of energy that alchemize a lot of the heart center, and that includes the lower heart and the upper heart. The upper heart is more of this unity consciousness, and it is closer to the throat chakra area, whereas the lower heart is, connected a little bit closer to like the solar plexus and so forth. But when you combine these two together, because they have been so disconnected for eons now, ever since we were separated, let's just say, because at some point all of us were, as a whole, were united and were complete with our energies before we decided to stay on the earth when the downfall occurred and the corruption took over the planet. And so now what's happening is that we are reigniting that and reawakening that and pretty much restitching ourselves or remembering, putting ourselves back together to the way we were. But in this sense, it's going to come in much stronger. And so it all starts with the Sacred Heart, and that is your own heart center. So the moment that you're able to put that more so together into its own wholeness, that expansiveness of that heart that continues to expand, it will continuously also expand other areas in your body, because I consider the heart center to be the hub, or let's say the center of your divine temple, and your divine temple is your physical body. And so this is where everything interconnects with all your other chakra points in your system. And so what I was finding with a lot of clients, that when I was focusing on their hearts, for like any heartbreak that they may have had, that the more work that we did to help clear some of the patterns, they would feel it, say, like in their shoulder or even like in their chin or their throat, because they were some of these minor chakra points around there associated and linked to the hearts. And sometimes in some cases, they would feel it also in their sacral area. And what was happening is that as the heart was alchemizing and dissolving some of these other patterns and these old timelines that no longer were serving them, it was also clearing up this other space of energy, or as chambers or grid systems, because we do have a grid system within ourselves. And it was opening up that line of communication, that is the energy of communication with the heart. And so that's why, I feel that the heart is the hub in itself. And I personally, my own experience that I went through, my, heartbreak when it came to my divorce, I alchemized a lot of my heart center. And when I started doing that and putting my whole heart back together, and it's just, continuously expanding into this heart of compassion, the heart GPS, as I will call it. And is also very intuitive, because the heart itself, when it is much more fully in its own wholeness, and I'm saying like the upper and the lower heart chakras more together, it also is very intuitive. And so scientifically, actually, scientists, are saying that there is the neurons in the heart are very similar, or they have more in the heart than it does the brain. So you can think of your heart as being like this mini brain. And so there is this connection that you do have, like your third eye center area, right, in your chakra for the brain. But there's also this connection that needs to occur with the heart and the brain in itself, in that center of your third eye center, of your psychic abilities. So all of that will also be amplified. And it's just by doing, this simple clearing of the patterns. And that's where, I was focused so much in the beginning, that it clears so much that I was able to tap into my heart's gateway, which was the soul. And so the soul, carries a lot of your purpose and your mission. And so I was feeling that calling much more strongly about my purpose and my mission. So I, opened up that gateway within myself to really, dive into that purpose and listen to that calling in that way. And so when that channeling from, the mentor came in about the return of the Sacred Heart, what it was saying is that I was helping many to remember about their Sacred Heart, because all of you, all who are listening to this, have a Sacred Heart. We all do. And I also connect with the Sacred Heart of Mother Earth and the Sacred Heart of the universe, of the cosmic. And it is very much so linked to a lot of the Ascended Masters. And you'll find, like in most of the channelings, a lot of the Ascended Masters always refer to the Sacred Heart. And I do, and always now, like even though my business, has shifted a bit from how I started in the beginning, that now, even when I do certain group settings or in private, I always, start with the Sacred Heart connection and with the heart center. And I'm remembering, when I was little, and this is before I even picked any career. And so I was, much more in the elementary school, that at one point I actually wanted to study to be a heart surgeon, like a heart doctor. And it was almost like maybe there was this calling already as a child, that I was already feeling drawn to working with the heart. And so it's not a coincidence, I'll say, that later on, fast forward into this present moment, that I'm feeling called, to work with the Sacred Heart energy. And so the Sacred Heart, it is this wholeness that it also includes that of the divine feminine, divine masculine energy and its own balancing form of energy. And it is, consists of like, many, many like chambers of energies that, are yet to get fully like activated and opened up. And so I remember also like in one of my Facebook groups, because like when I first started, I started calling almost everything by that name, right? Sacred Heart Awakenings, my Facebook group, my YouTube channel. But when things started to change, I realized that I am, going to call my Facebook group a different name, which has a different name now. And so does my YouTube channel. But my domain to my website still has that name, but I feel that will start to change as well. But like I said, the Sacred Heart, I still emphasize because it still is, a big part of the ascension. But there is just other things that I was, called to do to support with the ascension. And I remember when I had, this is the first, year that I had just started. And when people were joining the Facebook group, I remember one of the comments in that Facebook group where somebody said, well, this would be interesting to hear, what the Sacred Heart is, especially since, they had already, seen it in the church itself, what the Sacred Heart was. And it occurred to me, it's like, I didn't realize that the Catholic Church also talked about the Sacred Heart. And I remember now from childhood because, even though by family background, it's Catholic, but I honestly stopped, being a part of religion since I was little. And actually, when I was growing up, I always felt that there were things beyond the religion. So this may trigger some if you're like really into your religion. But this is, my experience that as I was, when I was going to church and I was like really little and I would hear, certain messages, but I felt that those messages weren't, they were too, I don't know what's the word to say, like they were too watered down. And I felt like there wasn't truth in it. Because in my heart at that time, intuitively, like I mentioned, I always felt very connected to God. And I always had these conversations with God. And so the way that God was being described there was not matching to the way, I was already having this bond with God. When I had this and then I started to follow this line of mysticism, I really stopped practicing a lot of the religion. So I never really felt drawn to go back at all. And I never did. I just went because that was part of the whole family at the time. But so when this person made this comment about the church, talking about the Sacred Heart, it brought back, some of that memory. And then it just, I asked that question. That is so interesting that, in the church, they talk about the Sacred Heart, but the way they talk about it is about Cosmic Master, Jesus, Sacred Heart. And so it occurred to me that, for me to like be talking about the Sacred Heart, I'm talking about it that you don't have to rely on someone else or be dependent on someone else's Sacred Heart. You have your own Sacred Heart. And that is my point of this whole remembrance of all of that. And so that is, part of the message. And of course, all the Ascended Masters, because Cosmic Master Jesus, and I feel like calling him Cosmic Master, I feel like he's very much like this Cosmic Master, and a lot of the Ascended Masters are as well. So I feel like they're more Cosmic Masters, but they all have the Sacred Heart. And so since we are all in this whole ascension journey, we're also embracing a lot of our own Sacred Heart energy. And it is that portal, that gateway into the cosmos, into this universal law, into the connection of our own purpose and our mission and our remembrance as well. So it opens up all of these doors for your connection to much higher divine source. And that is, what this whole Sacred Heart is. So I want to share, some tips for you if you're wondering how you can connect with your own Sacred Heart in your own way. So if you were to take a moment of your time, just a silent sacred moment somewhere in your own space or in nature. Or, if you could sit by a tree, because I feel like the trees are also helping us open up and expand a lot more of our energy field, especially in connection to our hearts. And just really tune into your own heart and ask, the hearts of all hearts within yourself, what is it that it needs at this time to be purged and cleared? And just have an honest, conversation with your own heart in that moment, because it knows, it is very wise, and it carries a lot of wisdom within it. And so that's how you start to really tap into your own sacred heart, and just setting that intention of knowingness that you have it. In that way, by listening to this also activating that part of you again, and that remembrance of your own sacred heart. So do this, as a daily practice for yourself, and expand on it, and, try to also expand with the other sacred hearts, with humanity, with Mother Earth, with the universe, and continuously do so. And the more that you do that, the more that you will be connected with your own sacred heart in your own way. And it will also support and boost a lot of the ascension energy because right now the energies are so intense, and it is giving us the extra boost of energy that we need for us to step more fully into ourselves. And it all starts with the heart, and it's just a matter of also clearing up a lot of the wounds and traumas that we may have had through the heartbreaks that we had in this lifetime, or in previous lifetimes that we've had that we may have forgotten about, but they have been subconsciously buried within the heart chambers and chakras, in that portion of our heart. So from my sacred heart to your sacred heart, I send you so much love, and I will connect with you in another episode. Bye for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to click like, save, and share with others so they can also experience what you just experienced. And stay tuned for some more high vibe episodes. And I'll be connecting with you in the next quantum field. Sending you so much love.